Welcome and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Jane Irrigation Training Series. I'm your host, Richard Vestuccia, and today we're going to be talking about the benefits of drip tape for sustainable agriculture. Now, some people have suggested to me, "Oh, drip tape's kind of simple and easy to understand," and I really challenged them back, and I said, there's really a lot to understand about drip tape. And the selection you make for drip tape and how you use it really will make a significant difference in your water use, your labor, and your yields. And so I asked Kevin Stewart, who is now the director of market development for Rivulus, to join us today because Kevin, if you've seen him before on these webinars, he does a great job. He's one of our most popular presenters. The thing that I really appreciate about Kevin, and really the industry is appreciating about Kevin, is he's really become the go-to person for this combination of irrigation and agronomy. What is going to do the best? What irrigation device is going to do the best for what crop? And Kevin's been involved in agriculture all his life, in the irrigation business now for, I think, 20 years. He makes complex subjects easy to understand. And we're really fortunate to have him with us today to take us through drip tape. So Kevin, thanks for joining and welcome.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, so Kevin, before we get into drip tape, I know you were in California all last week. We know that there was rain in the winter and maybe some challenges for growers. What's the season look like? What's your report from the field from your visits last week?
Well, yeah, I think, the season is upon us. Things are starting to warm up and a lot of activity in the Central Valley and out in the field. I think probably the first season has probably been shortened a little bit just with all of the moisture and the wet weather that we've had. So a lot of activity, a lot of people very busy trying to probably play catch up a little bit. And, they've got a certain amount of time to get their crop in and get things going. And that's been shortened a little bit. So it's interesting. Very, very busy in the valley right now. A lot of activity, but a lot of smiling faces too. So I think people are anxious just to get going and get into it.
Yeah, I bet the the activity level is very high, also the stress levels. But I think they'll have an okay year this year. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a banner year. I saw a report for the almond industry. They're predicting, for yields to be down, just given a lot of the issues with the moisture during bloom and some frost, and so I think that is going to hamper and lessen some of the yields. But some of the row crops, lettuce, onions, I don't think they're going to be quite as impacted. Tomatoes, as some of these permanent crops.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, listen, Kevin, let's get into drip tape.
You bet. Well, you'd asked me to kind of talk about the benefits of drip irrigation, drip tape specifically, and really kind of how that ties to kind of this sustainable agriculture. When I think of sustainability, there's a number of things that come to mind, but a few is, I think, how can we be good stewards of the land and protect our soil? That's first and foremost on the top of everyone's mind. How can we protect water, which is a precious resource, and utilize it in a way that we're going to get good water use efficiency? So that's something that we'll discuss throughout today as well. And we'll talk about how to avoid leaching, runoff, deep percolation. These all tie into just, kind of wasting your water a little bit. And if you're injecting fertilizer or anything through it, that if that gets past the root zone, right, it's not really going to be beneficial to the plant. And so all of these things from a sustainability standpoint, hopefully we'll cover throughout the course of this presentation.
Yeah, that's great. And anytime we start thinking about irrigation and water management to this level, it's number one, it's very exciting for all the positives it can do, and number two, it's the benefits of the yields are tremendous.
Just wanted to share this slide just to kind of let you know, there's about 58 million acres, irrigated acres, in the United States. And, this was actually taken back in 2018. They do a study every 5 years. And so I think in 2023, we should be getting kind of a new update on status of irrigation trends and amount of acres that are irrigated. But I wanted to show that, you kind of see of these 58 million acres, about 10%, so just under 6 million acres are dripped or micro irrigated with a micro irrigation type system. So you can see in the chart below just the trend over the past, several decades. You can see that the drip, has been consistently growing probably at about a 5 to 6% annually. I'm sure there's cases where it's grown maybe a little bit less or faster in certain states or certain geographies. But just wanted to kind of show that gravity has been on the decline while pressurized irrigation systems with the advent of center pivots and good uniform sprinklers, also with drip irrigation, we've seen some pretty good steady increases in that. So I know that farmers are very cognizant about the amount of water that they apply. I think an interesting fact is, although irrigated acres have gone up, the actual water use, so the acre feet per acre of water applied, has gone down from about 2 acre feet down to, on average, about 1.5 acre feet per acre. So we're seeing good trends in that direction, good progress, and I think a lot of that is due to kind of getting away from gravity and going to good, efficient water use practices.
Yeah, Kevin, we had Dr. Hillier from the Wet Center in Fresno on as a guest a couple weeks ago, and he mentioned that pressurized irrigation for the first time in California last year exceeded flood irrigation in California. It was a big deal, and so definitely repeating these trends or confirming the trends that you're pointing out today.
Yep. I think we're moving the needle in the right direction and making good progress. There's I'd like to kind of touch on the benefits of drip irrigation. I think most people know what drip is, but it's it's a delivery system of just taking small amounts of water, running them through a system and applying them at a very consistent and uniform rate. And I should add, it's not just water, it's fertilizers and nutrients that you're injecting through the system. So here's just a short list of a few things that I came up with. Drip irrigation systems have the ability to reduce the amount of water used. So I think if you've got a well-managed, well-designed system, and I would put an emphasis on, the management and the design of the system, I think you're set up to be very successful. I can give you countless examples of growers that save 15-20% water while increasing their yield at the same time. In fact, I just read an article of a researcher in Imperial Valley that was doing research on sweet corn, and they saved 38% water compared to a furrow irrigated crop without sacrificing any yield. In fact, they had a slight bump in yield. I think it was about 5%. So there's definitely room to save water and maybe get a better crop, increase the quality of the crop itself, and that kind of leads me to increased yields. We've seen a lot of processing tomato growers is one example that have gone away from furrow irrigated tomatoes and switched to drip, and we've seen tremendous benefits. They've been able to take ground that maybe wasn't as desirable to farm, but with drip, they're able to make it work. And so you're able to open up some of the production acres and grow a better crop while also saving a little bit of water as well.
Yeah, Kevin, I just want to mention one thing. When you talk about the savings that those growers had in the Imperial Valley of California, and we're talking about the water challenges, even with all the rain we've had, the challenges we still have to the lower Colorado River Basin. Um, and you think about how much water is being used for ag versus urban uses. There's a there's a really compelling argument to get more people on drip. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people understand that sometimes agriculture has a bit of a target, and I think growers naturally don't want to waste anything. I think they want to make the best of what they have. So I think they're going to look towards any product or method to increase the efficiency. So we're seeing that. I thought it was interesting. Years ago, we worked with a consultant that did a study, and they'd mentioned that for every pound of pressure that they're able to save, they're gaining $1. Wow. And so it's a dollar saved per pound of pressure per acre per season. So that may not seem like a lot, but if you times that by thousands of acres that are looking for ways to lower their pressure, we know there's a direct correlation between energy savings and pressure, and also water savings. We also can decrease disease pressure, insect pressure, weed pressure by putting that drip tape, kind of that band of water in a very narrow spot. If you're not irrigating areas that don't need water, you're going to see a significant decrease in your weed pressure. Also, if you're creating a less humid environment, you'll see less fungal diseases, just because they typically thrive and flourish in areas that are very humid. So that kind of sets up for a good way to avoid some of that. Something I find very interesting is you can really have almost no disruption in some cases with a drip system, whether if you're trying to cultivate a field or spray it or even harvest it. And I think to the adoption of alfalfa to drip, I know certain growers that actually will irrigate up until harvest, or maybe even during harvest, because that drip tape is so far below the ground that it doesn't really impact the top layer of it. And traditionally, with an overhead irrigation, you've got to turn off your system, you've got to dry it down so that a swather can come in and swath that field and then bale it. So we see, it's a good benefit of being able just to keep going and not slow down. And then just the precise application of fertilizers. We talked about that on that researcher that I had mentioned earlier down in Imperial Valley. I think they saw about $125 per acre in nitrogen savings just by switching to drip versus the conventional style. So pretty impressive numbers. It's not a silver bullet. There's, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the challenges, but here's a small handful of benefits that I thought were worth noting.
Yeah, great point, Kevin, that it's not a silver bullet, but it's a whole lot more than a good start too. So I just want to remind everybody, we've got the Q&A and the chat open. If you have a comment or want to ask a question of Kevin, put it in there and I'll ask when it's appropriate. But we did have one question already, Kevin, and that is, do you see very many alfalfa growers using drip irrigation these days?
Yeah, we do. Not as many as I would think. But yeah, it's a good respectable amount. I think there's 1 million acres of alfalfa grown in California. You're probably looking at about 1% of that are using drip, and so a long way to go. But we'll take the growth where we can get it. I would say probably some of the challenges there. And we'll kind of jump into this. Where you're burying that drip tape so far, below the soil surface, rodents can be an issue, and trying to mitigate, insect and rodent damage. I don't know if anyone has a perfect way to do that. But that is a challenge, and I would say most alfalfa growers probably struggle with that to some degree.
Yeah, it's great that you point that out too. And I will say we did a webinar maybe about a year and a half ago on subsurface drip in alfalfa. So if anybody's interested, you can check that out on the janesusa.com/trainings page.
Yeah. Again, some of the challenges of drip, if you don't have good filtration, you really could be taking chances with plugging or clogging your system. When people say, hey, do I need to invest in filtration? That's one area I would never cut a corner. In fact, I would double down and get the best filtration system possible. It's really a protection of your investment. So you also need to be careful with injecting different chemicals through your water. I would always advise that somebody check with an expert, whether that's your PCA, your irrigation dealer, maybe the extension office. I would always make sure that you know exactly, based on the quality of your water, how that's going to react with whatever chemicals you're putting in. And if you're combining chemicals, I would be very careful just to make sure that those chemicals are compatible with each other, that, together with water, that they don't, turn into, say, calcium sulfate, which, I think is a form of gypsum. And we've seen where, that has plugged a system completely. A poor design, again, just a shout out to our irrigation dealers that we worked with. Most of these dealers have been in business for a long time. They've spent hours trying to perfect that art and that science of designing a irrigation system. And if you think, you're going to just go string out drip tape and lay flat and put water to it, it's a little bit more challenging than that. You got to really take into account the elevation of the field and the friction lost, and just a lot of different things that go into it. Make sure that you've got the air vents placed properly, so you don't have soil ingestion. So I can't say enough good things about our network of dealers throughout the United States and the continual investment that they make to consistently get better at what they do. With any good system comes a cost or an investment, and sometimes this type of system can be more expensive than just siphon tubes in a ditch. And so, but you got to look at the payoffs. I would advise anyone to do a good return on investment and see how that works out. I know the association that we belong to, the California Irrigation Association, we have a drip wizard. And I would invite anyone to go to that. And if you have some of the variables, you can plug those in. It'll give you kind of the payback on what you're looking for. Also, I'd invite anyone to reach out to myself or anyone at Rivulus. We have a financing arm of our business, and could most likely put you in contact with someone if you're looking for some type of financing to finance the system. I would think that we could find a good solution for you on that. We talked a little bit about insect damage. Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
That's a great advantage that I hadn't thought about, just getting a little help, right? Because these growers are great business people, and they have to be, or they wouldn't be in the business of growing. The other thing that I think is interesting is many times it's the cost of water that's dictating this investment to make or not. And what we've seen in the past, we've seen things like $22 an acre foot water becomes $2,200 acre foot water in a short period of time. And there is no management, really. It's either you're in business to grow or you're out of business because you can't afford the water. I think we're going to see a lot more of a happy medium here in the pricing. And as a result, give more people the ability to manage their water and manage their business.
Water's everything, as we know it. We know a lot of people that are drip irrigating, don't have enough water, and so they're deficit irrigating a bit just to try and get enough water, or the minimal amounts of water, just to keep some of their crops alive. And I'm talking mainly on permanent crops at this point. But I would say, if water is in short supply, or if it's expensive, along with the drip irrigation system, I would reach out to anyone at Rivulus or Jane that offers a technology platform to help manage your water. There's a lot of know-how, a lot of knowledge, a lot of good tools, a lot of technology that can help make do with the amount of water that you have. So yeah, I wouldn't you can reach out to Richard or myself. Anybody within the organization can point you in the right direction to give you the right tools. We've got a whole toolkit of different options, almost for every budget. So and then a wise person once told me, don't try and make the drip fit the crop, make your crop fit your drip system. So if you're committed to making drip work, I would figure out, if you need to plan on this size, or you've got this injection tool, I would make everything work around that. I've seen growers do this. I've seen people very successful that have pretty much upended their operation to make everything fit around the drip. And I think that, the case, can be made that you'll see much more benefits. So, we talked about challenges. There's a lot of good things of two companies coming together, Rivulus and Jane. We've got just a great team of people with a lot of knowledge. You bring two really good product offerings together, and I'm just focusing here on drip tape. But when you look at drip tape, you've got this continuous style flow path, and you've got a discrete emitter. And we never really want to, force anyone into one different style. We want to have a conversation, look at the scenario, and then provide a multiple list of options. And what I'm going to actually talk about right now is more focused on kind of this continuous flow path, just the amount of time that we have. And we've got three great products. We've got T-Tape, Chapin, and Row Drip. And I'm actually just going to talk about T-Tape for just a minute. And this is kind of an exciting time for me. Richard, I don't know if you know, I've been in the business for about 25 years. Right out of college, I had the opportunity to work for T-Tape, and worked for that organization for 10 years. And so coming back to this product, it's a very formidable product, good, as we were competing with it for a little bit, it was a tough product to compete against. And I just wanted to share maybe some of the aspects of T-Tape and why I think it's a great product and meant for many different operations.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Kevin. I was going to actually say something about that your experience with T-Tape is really goes back a long time, and that's fabulous. And I, like you, anytime I knew we were competing with T-Tape, it was a nervous time, right? Because we knew how good the product was.
Right. It was built, decades ago, and it's as good as it was then as it is now, with some major improvements to it. So I would say the robustness of the product, if you can see here, just anyone that's not familiar, you've got water that is flowing through this primary chamber, and you can kind of see this gap right here. But this is where the water would pass through each one of these filtering inlets. On a product, you can see the lowest number of inlets that we put in any one of our drippers is 13, and it goes all the way up to 211 and everything in between. So each one of these inlets is a filter, and you really only need about 5 of them to provide enough water to supply the emitter pathway and to have water come out at the engineered rate. So if you happen to plug 95% of them, if you still have 5%, or 5 inlets, you're still going to be okay. So I really applaud the fact that they've made a number of inlets. Again, you can see, I'm just trying to look for maybe a common product that this 12-inch low flow. You can see there's 50 inlets in this emitter. So a lot of thought and consideration went into that. Once it passes through these inlets, it goes through this track, which have been designed to try and create quite a bit of velocity and keep things in suspension so that things don't settle out. And once it makes its way through there, it comes out this, it's a knife cut slit. So when it's pressurized, that slit opens up. When you depressurize the system, that slit closes back down. And it's a great way to, if there's anything kind of in solution, if there's any soil right around the area, it's going to have a hard time making its way back in if you've kind of closed that door or closed that slit. So between the inlets, the emitter pathway, the slit design, and the tensile strength and elasticity of the product, it's an excellent product that's suited for just about any crop.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned one of the challenges was clogging, and certainly this really helps with any clogging, having that type of insurance here, or a way to combat the clogging. That's really nice.
Right. And if you happen to, most of the plugging occurs in the inlet, whether it's a discrete emitter or a continuous style. The nice thing about that is you can recover a lot of these systems with a good flush, anywhere between 1.5 to 2 feet per second. And, we could do a whole webinar on flushing of your drip tape, and maybe you've done that already, but that will help maintain a good system, flush out any particles that may have gotten lodged anywhere, and just kind of clean things out. So
yeah, and it's surprising to me, Kevin, we have done flushing, and we also did air vents, and they're two of the most popular webinars. You might not have thought that, but this is such an important thing that you're mentioning, that people do come to watch it.
Yeah. Another thing is I wanted to kind of talk about all of the options that T-tape has, anywhere from 5/8 inch inside diameter all the way to 1 3/8 inside diameter. And we base everything on our run lengths as far as hitting a 90% emission uniformity. And so we don't recommend running anything past that, just because if you're making this investment, you want to make sure that you've got good efficiency when you're delivering the water. So you can see that on 5/8 we have anywhere from 300 to 900 feet, and a lot of this depends on the spacing and the flow. The higher the flow and closer the spacing, a lot of times means your run lengths are going to be a little bit less. So just know that we've invested in 4 different options just to make sure that we provide something for everyone. So you can see we go from 300 feet all the way up to almost a half a mile. So we start, talking about feet to miles and everything in between. Another thing that comes up quite a bit is, what's the best spacing for my crop? And that really depends on kind of what you're growing and what the objective is. If you're trying to germinate a field, closer is often better. And if you're in kind of a light to medium ground, closer is good as well. And I just wanted to kind of talk about a study that was done years ago, and they compared 2 different drip. This is the same flow rate, but one is an 8-inch and one is a 16-inch. And this is on a medium silt loam soil. And they measured after each hour how long it took for basically the 2 circles to come together. And you can see within 5 hours on the 8-inch, you had 100% of a wetted front, where you've got these 2 circles that have come together. On a 16-inch, you can see it took 12 hours, and even, we had kind of timed out on the study, and these had still not yet come together. So the ideal option is you want to create kind of a wetted band. And so after 5 hours, if you go to maybe 6-8 hours, you've created a complete band of water. And I don't have a picture with me, but it's pretty impressive when you're trying to germinate a crop, and you can see that you've wetted the entire bed, maybe just past the seed line. So trying to figure out the right spacing and the right flow. is it's important, and just was impressed. T-tape has made the investment all the way from 4 inches up to, I think, 24 inches and everything in between.
Yes, that's really interesting, Kevin, because oftentimes we do see the photos of drip tape or emitter line in the field, and you see lots of dots, right? And that's supposed to show the uniformity. But this wetted band makes a whole lot more sense to me, right? The coverage to the root zone and being able to drop it just at the right rates makes a lot more sense. Thing I'm curious about is, I would have normally thought if in 5 hours we get 100%, with the 8-inch, 16-inch would get there in 10 hours, but it's actually much more than that.
Yeah, it's a little boggling to try and figure out. I'm just kind of showing what the study actually yielded out at. So yeah, I think everyone was kind of scratching their head when they saw this. This was kind of done by an independent study, and anyone that's interested, I've got a whole list. We measured 12 different tapes with different spacing and different flows, and you can imagine products with a close emitter spacing and a very high flow will get a very fast wetted front. I think most people would understand that. The problem with that is if you're on short run lengths, that's perfect. If you're trying to irrigate something 300-400 feet, that's a perfect option for you. The balance is when you're trying to get to 800-900, maybe a quarter mile, is trying to find a flow rate and a spacing that will wet the area quickly, but still give you the uniformity that you need. Again, that's the whole reason why most people are driven to drip, is to make sure that they've got good uniformity. They're looking for 90-95% uniformity in this investment.
So Kevin, one thing I'm thinking, right? So I'm going to use the closer spacing any chance I can, because this makes sense to me. But am I going to end up using a whole lot more water as a result of that?
If you work with the right people and ask the right questions, no, because what we would do is steer you to a closer emitter spacing with a lower flow rate. And so if you are trying to hit a certain application, say inches per hour, or gallons per minute per 100 feet, or gallons per minute per acre, or if you're trying to tie that back to the capacity of your pump or your well, there's a way to do that and still get the length of run at a 90%. It can be achieved, but you got to work with a company that's got plenty of options as far as spacing and flows to achieve that.
Yeah, well, and it's T-tape has this, all those options available. That's
correct. Yep. They've made that investment in all the different wheels to make the spacing and the flow rates and everything. So one other thing, this picture is taken on the coast. This is 7/8 5 mil that was put out for a lattice field, and T-tape over the years has kind of figured out how to increase the tensile strength of their product and give it just enough elasticity, so where it's okay if it stretches just a little bit as it's coming out of the ground. This tape is destined to be recycled and put into other drip products, but you don't want it to break, and so that's kind of the fine balance. And T-tape has done a good job kind of finding that balance to where it's not too rigid. It's got a little bit of elasticity to it, and that it's going to come out of the ground and then get pulled onto what we call a winder or a binder, and then that goes off to get recycled. We work with others, have a program to where that gets washed and chopped and cleaned and then repelletized. So just wanted to highlight the tensile strength of the product.
Yeah, another great point for sustainability there, Kevin. Thank you. So we get a question coming in right now from our audience, and they're asking, so you pick up the tape after harvest, is that correct?
Pretty well, in this case, yeah. So this is all hand harvested. I think this is some type of lettuce crop, maybe romaine. Very typical to go in, hand harvest, and then once the crew is done, then this machine is going in. if the tape happened to be buried below the ground an inch, it's lifting it to the surface. Once this operation goes through, I should have included a picture, but there's a team on the edge of the field that is taking dozens of drip tape all at once and winding it onto a large binder, if you will, or a coil to really kind of compact that, and then that gets taken to a recycler to where it goes through the process of cleaning it and washing it and grinding it. So
yeah, I just want to make mention, if you check out some of our social media channels, we've got a lot of great video going around this week on T-tape going in and out of the field. So check that out.
Lastly, Richard, I just wanted to share that T-tape has a wide range of options. You get 4 options for the inside diameter, ranging from 5/8 to 1 3/8. Again, that is all dependent on your run length and how far you want to run that drip tape and keep a 90% emission uniformity. Lots of options for mil thicknesses, ranging from 4 mil to 15 mil. A lot of spacings. 4, 6, 8, 12. I would say 6, 8, and 12 are very, very common spacings, but we do have other spacings if you've got some unique project. And these are flows in gallons per minute per 100 feet. I don't want to confuse anyone. These aren't gallons per hour per emitter. Anyone that wants the conversion, I can share that. But that's how we, in the continuous drip tape, that's how we measure this, is in gallons per minute per 100 feet. So you can see we've got a wide range of different flows to meet just about any need. And lots of investments to make sure that this company provides just a great range of options, again, to meet just about any crop need. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions online. If anyone wants to contact me afterwards, I've left my contact information, email and cell phone. More than happy to talk and converse with anybody if you've got any questions about drip irrigation. Again, I've got close to 25 years experience focused around drip tape, and I had the opportunity to visit multiple countries and see how it's done all over the US and other parts of the world. So
great job today, Kevin. This was really, really good and interesting. We had a couple more questions coming in, and one of the questions was that 1 3/8 drip tape. What type of crops are people irrigating with that big a drip tape?
Most of that goes to the middle of the country, into Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, maybe a little bit into Texas. And that goes primarily for the corn and soybean market, maybe a little bit of cotton, but primarily we call it subsurface drip on corn. It goes out, maybe a half mile. We bury it. It ranges a little bit, but maybe a foot deep to maybe a little bit deeper. And we put it every 30 inches, sometimes every 60 inches, kind of depending on what the objective is. And we expect to get decades of use out of it. So Kansas State University had done a study where they'd put some drip tape in. And this was 5 or 6 years ago, but they were celebrating 25 years of it being in the ground. And they did a uniformity study on it just to check to see how it was performing, from, I think they had the metrics from day 1 to 25 years later. And it was the CVs, the flows, everything was flowing exactly as it should have been and as it was on day 1. So it says a lot about the drip tape, but it probably says even more about how you maintain your system.
Yeah, great point. And that is the same drip tape for that many years.
Same drip tape for that many years. It was buried about 16 inches deep and irrigated kind of a corn soybean rotation.
Wow.
And yeah.
Pretty phenomenal. So Kevin, you've got your contact information up here. I just want to confirm it's okay for people to reach out and call you, email you. You're here to help, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Give me a ring. More than happy. If I don't know the answer, I'll point you in the right direction. But I'm sure, between myself and my colleagues, we can definitely get any question answered and help you on your way to being successful at drip irrigating.
Yeah, what a great valuable resource that is, Kevin. What a generous offer. Thank you again for being here today. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in today. We really appreciate you taking a little bit of your day and spending it with us to educate yourself on good water management practices. You can see all our trainings now, over 300 at the janesusa.com/trainings page, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We extract the audio out of this, put it onto a podcast too. And I'm always really happy to see how many people are listening to these podcasts, typically when they're working. So they're working and improving their knowledge at the same time. It's really great. Kevin, speaking of great job again today. And thank you for helping us out.
Thanks for having me, Richard.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, listen, I hope everybody has a good rest of the day, and we'll see you back here next week. We're going to be talking about some new reports for Jane Unity software that are pushed to users to make your job of water management even easier. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.